Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Another Inside the Birds. Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan. We're going to finish our two-part podcast series looking at Eagles flying under the radar. This episode will be dedicated to the defense. We already did the offense earlier this week. Go check that out. And, of course, in between, Adam, we had to sandwich in Andrew DeCecco getting his OTA observations. He was the one that was there from all three of us, and I thought you and him did a great job just going through different players. We try not to make too much of what goes on at OTAs, but personnel groupings, position switches, guys coming back from injury, and of course takeaways from VicFangio's press conference. So they're gold, man. I appreciate VicFangio more than ever. Not because like I think the media demands this or deserves it. It's just refreshing to see a coordinator, sort of old school, who doesn't think that there's some competitive disadvantage to talking about Cooper DeJean potentially playing safety or outside corner in May or June when he knows other teams don't care because they're still just trying to install their own offense and defense.
And by the way, on that, it's not definite that he's going to play safety. It's that when they get to certain situations, they're going to basically want him on the field. It's very obvious, okay? Not that anyone didn't know this, but Vic kind of said it. They want him on the field, okay? He could be another 100% playtime guy. He could be an Iron Man. The guy's dynamic. That was the term that the scouting source gave me last year. He called him a dynamic slot, the way he was used. It was an ordinary slot player. He's a super freak athlete. Everybody knows it. The Eagles are on their way to getting this one right. It's only 1 year, but he was phenomenal, and you want him on the field. That's what Vic made it pretty clear. This guy's got to be on the field.
Absolutely. And I like that commitment to making sure no matter what you do, you're putting your players in the best position to succeed, and you're putting your best players on the field. It doesn't matter. And then you cross-train it, because we've seen coaches have to do the opposite. High drafted players have to play just because they're high drafted, or players playing in positions that they shouldn't be. We see that a lot with linebackers. They get drafted to play like Hassan Reddick being drafted to be an inside linebacker when he really all along was an edge rusher, right? So we see that. So it's refreshing from Vic, to be honest with you. I just like the idea of the versatility that the Eagles could have defensively, the ability to play nickel, dime, big nickel. So there's optionality with what Vic has. And again, just the candor, we've talked about how he reminds us of Jim Johnson, and I see a lot of that. Yeah. So good on Vic for that. And you can also get a sense of how Vic feels by how he talks about somebody. I know you and Andrew talked about, he basically said Sidney Brown, he was honest. He said even all the experience he got in 2024, it doesn't matter. It wasn't his defense. So he was basically kind of like that big nickel interior
23 man, right?
23. Sorry about that. Yeah, 23. It doesn't matter. So you can always get a tone, and you get an idea for how he feels about a player based on his tone.
Yeah, and look, he acknowledged the training camp battles and what's going to happen. It's funny. He would drop. There's sometimes you don't know why he does it. You could guess. Like he'll drop players' names in there sometimes twice. You're like, well, why is he talking about this guy? Well, he may not be happy with the guys in front of him, so he wants people to recognize. Okay, don't forget about this guy, like Tristan McCullum when he mentioned him.
Yep.
Okay, he's been here. This is his third year with the Eagles, so you never know. So no, but he gave out a lot of great information. The safety note was fascinating because we know for a fact that there were teams that saw him as a safety, didn't see him playing corner.
That's right.
And Vic did say that he's going to play corner. We saw that last week, and he did line up at corner. So we'll see. What I would warn people is absolutely nothing is etched in stone totally with DeJean this season. Just be careful of when the media is there. Remember, it's not like it used to be when we got every single practice, every single moment. They don't get that anymore. So, and what the media might see at one practice could be completely different from another, and they'll never know it because the media's not there.
There you go. So it's pretty obvious that the storyline of the Eagles throughout spring and summer will be the defense, because the offense brings back a ton of guys. And there'll be some discussions about the evolution of the offense, and we've already got into that a little bit. But defense, with replacing half of a unit from a a unit that ranked #1. That's where a lot of the storylines are going to come from. That's where a lot of the questions have been so far in the OTAs. And of course, that's going to be our topic of discussion in this podcast. Some of the under radar guys who have a chance, especially because, Adam, the Eagles don't have depth that they typically have. Well, at least we don't think. We don't know yet in some areas. So that'll allow for some good competition. And I want to start up front with a guy that definitely flying under the radar. We don't talk about a lot, but because of the depth question marks at the interior defensive line, guy like Byron Young, who the Eagles got last year, and I know you've made a big deal about this, rightfully so, is that this guy was once a 3rd-round pick out of Alabama in 2023. So, and that wasn't one of those Eagles take Davion Taylor, like where it kind of shocked people. I felt that was the area he was supposed to go, but the Raiders certainly gave up on him pretty quickly. What do you expect out of him? What are you looking for out of him this year?
A major opportunity here. This guy, you look at him, let's talk about his measurables, okay, which are fantastic. 6'3" and 3/8. Really, that's no, he's not 6'1", he's 6'3", 3/8. That's good. 295. Arm length, this is major. He's got left tackle arms, 34 and 3/8. Wingspan, 81 and 1/8. Hands are giant, 11. He did bench at the combine, 24. Traits, these measurables are traits, man. This is like really good. Now, I know I've learned this the hard way in 27 years covering this business. What you did in college gets you drafted. What you've done at this level, once you get there, doesn't it makes what you did in college irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Once you're drafted and you've played, it doesn't matter what you did in college. So this is a great example of, okay, you're right, he was a 3rd-round pick. But what happened with Byron Young was Tom Telesco made the call. He was only there 1 year. He didn't draft him. He was drafted by the previous Raiders regime. Think about, they had 3 regimes in 3 years. And he got caught up in it. He didn't perform with the Raiders at all. They didn't like him. As a matter of fact, this is also rare. He was so disappointing. He didn't make it till the final cut down of 53. He was cut in August.
Wow.
Not good. He only played in 6 games with the Raiders. He didn't play with the Eagles last season. He was on IR twice. But again, folks, there's an opportunity here, okay? There's talent here. He wasn't drafted in the 3rd round because he can't play. I know he doesn't done anything as a professional, but the hope here is that Byron Young got the message. He got cut, so he clearly got the message, but let's hope he took it to heart. Now, the Eagles, for the most of the season, only had 5 D tackles in the roster, unlike 2 years ago when they had 7 to start the season, which is ridiculous, which we made fun of Howie on that one. But they did trade Kentavious Street, so there was a reason for it.
Yep.
But this time, so let's look at it. Right now, they have 7 on the roster, right? It's the 3 guys who are going to play a lot, Ojomo, Davis, and Carter. It's the aforementioned Byron Young, Thomas Booker, who could play nose. That's his primary position, but he could play 5, he could play 7. And Ty Robinson, who's a pass rusher, get upfield type of guy. He's really not a nose unless you shade him a certain way. And then Gabe Hall, who's got great measurables, but was not drafted for a reason. He just doesn't apply himself. So there's a real opportunity here for him to push for a roster spot.
Absolutely. I mean, you see the top 4 are etched in stone. You mentioned the 3 players who play a lot, and that's Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo. Ty Robinson's a rookie. He's going to make it. But right after that, after those 4, to me, if they're going to keep 5 or 6, then there's 2 spots. You got Booker, you got Byron Young, you got Gabe Hall. I mean, I think that a good camp by any one of them, improvement by any one of them would go a long way to claiming one of those spots.
If Gabe Hall, I mean, you're all-time measurables, right? Measurables are traits. I mean, that definitely is athletic trait.
Right.
If he could just get the fire to play the game like they need him to get it, oh boy, this has got to be it for him. Like the lights got to go on here.
Yeah. I agree. I think when you're playing for Vic and you're playing for Clint Hurt, you don't get a real long leash. You get a year.
No, you don't.
To get acclimated and then.
But they brought him back. They didn't need to. They didn't have to. I mean, they gave him a big practice squad guarantee last year. So what? I mean, he's now back again. They're going to give him one more try. Again, they don't have a lot of players at D tackle on the roster right now, and we'll see what happens with him.
All right, let's go to the middle of the field and talk about a linebacker, a rookie linebacker. He is flying under the radar because he's not maybe among the first people mentioned, but there's opportunity for this guy in two ways, both special teams and defense, depending on how things shake out. And that's Smael Mondon, the ILB, as Vic would say, 5th-round pick out of, guess what, Georgia.
So it's funny the way that Vic talks. Like the only linebackers that he coaches are inside backers. He doesn't call, like Pittsburgh might call their OLBs linebackers. Yeah. Vic doesn't. It's either like if you're a linebacker, you're an ILB. If you're an edge rusher, you're an edge rusher. You're not a linebacker. So it's just kind of comical. So Mondon, 6'2 1/4. Now he's today's linebacker. He's in the mid 220s. Arm length is average for linebacker, 31 1/4. Wingspan's actually pretty good, 80 1/8. Hand size is also good at 9 3/4. His 40 was just okay, 4.58. 10-yard split was good at 1.52. He did the broad jump at 10.10, which is not bad. See, here's the thing about him. He can cover, which is important. And the reason why he's like, no one's really talking about him because everyone's talking about Trot Jr., and that's a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Trot with Jr. Really didn't contribute much, although we know that he did very well behind the scenes. Had a number of good practices we heard last year where he made some plays. So Mondon, ironically, is a 5th-round pick, not out of Clemson, but out of Georgia. There's an opportunity here. Now, how he keeps his players, his draftees most likely. So most likely he's going to play. He's going to make it. And with Dean, highly unlikely to be ready, and he'll likely start the regular season on active PUP, barring something highly unforeseen. So it's Bond, Campbell, who Vic also gave out, who's starting out at inside backer, but won't be ready till sometime in August. Mm-hmm. So to start training camp, folks, here you go. It's Trot Jr. and Bonner, your starting ILBs. Then Dallas Gann from Sirianni's favorite school, Toledo. Mondon, who we mentioned, and Lance Dixon. They are so light. Mondon, hell, he could be the 3rd linebacker to start training camp. It's not out of the question. I was just
about to say that. If Trotter or Bond stubs their toe or twist their ankle on the second day of camp and needs, then Smael Mondon could quite possibly be the next guy up. And also from a special team standpoint, because I think we do a good job on Inside the Birds, really showing the importance of the 3rd phase. I know Andrew's big on that. Yes. But Jalix Hunt was a huge part of the special teams last year, and so has Ben Van Sumeren. Van Sumeren can still do it even as a fullback, but you got to think with Hunt's role as a starter, not going to be able to contribute as much on special teams, and possibly Keely Ringo, if he wins the starting job, will not be able to compete as much on. And same thing with Trotter being out if he's a starter until Nakobe Dean is back. So Campbell could be it, but he still won't be back for a while. So Smael Mondon has an opportunity right away to make himself an impact on special teams. And if you're good at that, you're usually the next guy up on the field. Oren Burks was a big part of special teams last year before you had to come in. So they've really lost a lot there on the punt and coverage, kickoff coverage units and all that. So that's going to be big.
If you want to get on the field as a rookie, ask Terrell Davis. How did he get on the field as a 6th-round pick? He would want up being a Hall of Famer. He was phenomenal in special teams. He has that tackle, which is crazy. It was a game in Tokyo. I think they played the 49ers in whatever year he came out, 96 or 97. Mm-hmm. Out of Georgia, by the way. And that got him on the field early, and he obviously wound up being their best running back. But, when you talk about Mondon, one of the reasons, as we understand it, he dropped to the 5th despite being a pretty accomplished linebacker is he had 2 injuries, one pretty significant. This dragged on. He couldn't shake it. Then he had surgery, he had a stress fracture. This was a couple of years ago, but one was he was a 3-year starter at Georgia, but one was one that clubs were concerned about. He also had an ankle injury, so that had something to do with it. Now, you could be 6'2" and a quarter and look like a rail, like really thin, or you could be 225 and jacked up. Sometimes guys are like that. You don't, unless you're at training camp or at OTAs, you don't see it. You'd have to look. But we'll take a greater look at him in training camp. But there's a wonderful opportunity, probably bigger than I expected for him, because they are rail thin right now because of Campbell's coming back from his surgery, will not be ready early on. and Dean. Now, if Dean and Campbell weren't hurt, coming back from surgery, different story. Right now, Mondon's going to have a wonderful opportunity to play early this season if it works out for him.
Absolutely. Let's stay in the secondary. There's another rookie the Eagles took who, if things shake out the right way, and if this guy is impressive, will probably play more of a role than we're discussing right now. And that's MacMcWilliams out of Central Florida. He's the, by the way, did you happen to catch my,
I did.
My football 4 with Mike Gill the other day? I think
so it's funny. So when you know, it's so funny. So they called him Mac. I don't know what Mike Gill. I don't know the name he came up with.
They called him MacMcWilliams from Colorado State.
MacMcWilliams, right? I never heard of. But you're not going to believe this one. Now you have to be an old school Phillies fan. You didn't grow up here, so I doubt you're going to remember this guy. You might have remembered. You're old enough to remember the immortal Larry McWilliams. Who was Larry McWilliams? Larry McWilliams was a relief pitcher from the Pirates and Phillies.
Yes, I remember him.
Who basically, he was a lefty. He was a setup, or middle relief. Like, okay, he gets to the mound. And it's funny, this is the era where guys would delay all the time. You give him the ball, immediately he threw the baseball. He throw it back to him immediately. He wouldn't even let the batter set up. I just remember him. Very funny windups. You can find him on YouTube if you're really interested. All three of you. Right. But it made me laugh.
Eagle. Was there not an Eagle? Mark McMillan, right?
Mark McMillan. Yeah, no, Mark is was short from Alabama, like 5'7".
Yeah.
But man, he was tough.
Mm-hmm.
He was aggressive. He was tough. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Mark McMillan. Yeah, sure. That was when that was probably the last time they looked at Alabama until this recent spurt over the last 5 years.
Right. Him and who's the other guy they took? Yeah, him. Didn't they take a wide receiver from Alabama? Oh man, I can't remember. It wasn't.
I'm not sure. But Sharon Stacy never worked out. He was a running back for your old school Eagle fans. Yeah,
right. So anyway, getting back to the real MacMcWilliams. This is a guy who can play an important role at him because another one who, with his speed, I mean, the guy runs fast. He could really help, and he's physical too. Speed and physicality will help him take whoever's spot on special teams isn't there. But also, the Eagles did play a little bit of dime last year, not a lot, but that was an Avonte Maddox role. They no longer have someone for that. And if Cooper DeJean does move or does get hurt, right, there's really no natural nickel. In fact, VicFangio gave a clue because somebody asked him about Andrew Makuba. Makuba played some nickelback at Texas in college in their defense. And VicFangio said, yes, he did do that, but we haven't really thought of him that way yet. So right now, you're not even thinking of Makuba in a big nickel package, or at least not playing the slot position in it the way I thought maybe they might use him.
Well, yes. And a couple of things additionally with MacMcWilliams is that you mentioned that he's physical, right? Well, that's actually what an AFC team told us this week. Because I was talking to area scouts and anyone in college scouting who might have had a grade on him, just trying to learn more about him. He's out of Central Florida. He too is a 5th round pick, as Smael Mondon was and is. So this team told us they were actually going to draft him in the 5th round. He was on their list. He was on their list to draft in the 5th round. That's where they had him graded. And they too saw him the way the Eagles did, as a corner and as a nickel. So that's the way Fangio sees him as well. As you mentioned, they don't have a quality nickel at this point. Now, Perry Nickerson knows Vic because he was with him. He was a journeyman corner, or sorry, nickel, who was with Vic with the Dolphins. So that's why he's here. And we'll see with MacMcWilliams. And again, he's going to make the roster. And they are we should mention this too. So you mentioned nickel, right? They're very light there. Their cornerback group right now are the following: Quinyon Mitchell, Ringo Jackson, Castro Fields, who's got good size, by the way, former Penn Stater, 49er draft pick, Eli Ricks, who's back, year 3.
Yeah.
And then you got the undrafteds, BJ Mays and Brandon Johnson. They are super thin at corner, too. Wow.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's opportunity. Him being a rookie means he'll probably make the team. I mean, he has a very, very good chance to do it. Yeah. But as we say, it's not just making it. If you play well, they can find a role for you. And dime is I feel like dime is a defense that Vic had to play at times to counter certain offensive looks that might be 5 wide, which put Avonte Maddox on the field. And it really didn't help the Eagles because Maddox got burned a couple of times. The Bengals game once, I forget the other game where he got burned. And amazingly, he stepped in as as the nickel in the Super Bowl and had a pass breakup, but he really didn't perform that well in the dime. But if McWilliams can play and adjust there, you can see Vic going to that a little bit more, especially when a team has to go with, you know, 3rd and long or 4th and long, and there's a lot of wide receivers on the field or stretch tight ends.
Yeah, I would add this, okay? Let's say Adoree Jackson doesn't work out, right? He's got a very light contract. 1 year, $1.755 million, $1 million fully guaranteed. That's not going to keep him on the roster. He's going to have to earn it. So if he plays well, not only will it be on the roster, he could be starting. Then, of course, if he pulls a who is the kid the Browns who was the guy from the Browns that the Eagles cut who you called 2 years ago in June?
Greedy Williams.
Yeah, if he turns out to be Greedy Williams, okay. What's their recourse here? What do they do? Well, it's obviously Ringo would be starting. Who's the next corner up? Who's the first corner off the bench if Ringo gets hurt?
It's a good question.
That's a problem. So it could be MacMcWilliams. Like he's a guy right now who look, I don't know as things are right now. Let's say Ringo and Jackson play well. The loser of that battle is the first corner off the bench. Eli Ricks makes it. He's a good special teams player, but MacMcWilliams still could have a good role because they're so light at nickel, backup nickel, and backup corner.
100%. The secondary is the storyline of the season. It really is. I mean, with Cooper DeJean moving around, with the fight to replace CJ Gardner-Johnson, with the fight to replace Darius Slay. I mean, these were pillars of the secondary last year. The second we were saying that last year's defense is the first time I can remember where the secondary helped the pass rush, maybe more so than the pass rush helping the secondary. When they went to the Super Bowl in 2022 with all those sacks and everything, that helped James Bradbury look a lot better than he was really playing. But this is the first time I can remember having such an airtight. I believe Cliff Kingsbury was on a podcast Super Bowl week and said that the Eagles played with the most elite spacing he had ever seen on defense. That's how well they were executing their zone principles and their landmarks, knowing where to be, their match, carry, deliver. All of that back end.
Wow, that's interesting. Now Lewis Cine, we've talked too much about him. I mean, we've been talking about him for 8 months, folks. You know everything we know about Lewis Cine. We've given you all the measurables, ridiculous.
Yeah, he's not under the radar at all. Yeah. He's on everybody's radar.
He's on the radar. But I hate to go ahead.
I would say after listening to VicFangio, maybe Tristan McCullum is a little more under the radar because that was intentional when Vic said, "Don't forget," and Tristan too. He said he's in the mix too.
Right. So think about it. Right, teams typically keep 4 safeties. They don't keep 5, and sometimes they keep 3. Depending on if the nickel could play safety or the corner could play safety if needed. But so right now you've got Brown, Blankenship, Makuba are obviously making the team. McCollum's the leader in the house in the clubhouse for the 4th safety. Cine's on the outside looking, and don't forget about Max and Hook, who we know for a fact there were other teams involved trying to sign him out of Sirianni's favorite school. Are they up to 4 guys from Toledo at least? I think
too many guys, Adam.
Yeah. So right now, Cine's got to play himself into the mix to be the 4th safety to have a real chance, and he might. The measurables got him drafted in the tape, but right now he's got to prove himself here. But he's a fascinating study. I know when you were there last week, you saw how long he is. Now I was told he is willing to be physical, though. People knock his build because he's lanky, but he was physical in college.
Yeah, he and Castro Fields you mentioned is big.
Yeah.
And they both stood out to me as kind of bigger than you would think that they look based on just what you might see on a height weight list somewhere.
Yeah, so. Castro Fields, he's another guy. We're not really going to go deep into with him, but he's got an opportunity here. It's bounced around a little bit. Another from one of the Eagles' favorite teams to take players from, the 49ers.
All right, good stuff. That is it. That is our defensive players flying under the radar, and that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.